If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge, and when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. The Discovery of the Money Pit. The year was 1795. Daniel McGinnis walked across Oak Island with the curiosity of a 16-year-old boy who had grown up hearing whispered tales of pirates and buried gold. The island sat quietly in Mahone Bay, Nova Scotia, its trees casting long shadows in the afternoon light. Something caught his eye. A circular depression in the earth, roughly 13 feet wide. The soil looked different here, softer than the ground around it. Above the strange hollow, an oak tree stretched its branches toward the sky. One thick branch hung directly over the depression, scarred with rope marks that spoke of heavy loads, once lifted and lowered. McGinnis felt his heart race. Every local fisherman knew the stories. Pirates had sailed these waters decades before. Captain Kidd himself was said to have hidden treasure somewhere along this coast. The boy stared at the depression and wondered if he was looking at the entrance to a pirate's secret vault. He returned the next day with two friends, John Smith and Anthony Vaughan. The three young men brought shovels and began to dig. The soil came away easily, too easily. Someone had dug here before. At 2 feet down, their shovels struck something solid. They scraped away the dirt and found a layer of carefully placed flagstones. No natural process could have arranged these rocks so perfectly. Someone had built this structure with purpose and planning. The stones lifted away to reveal more loose soil beneath. The boys dug deeper. At 10 feet, they hit another barrier. This time, a platform of oak logs stretched across the entire width of the shaft. The wood looked old but still solid. Each log had been cut to the exact same length and placed with precision. They pried up the logs and kept digging. The pattern repeated itself. Every 10 feet, another wooden platform blocked their way. Someone had built this shaft like a massive puzzle, with barriers designed to slow down anyone trying to reach the bottom. Word spread quickly through the small community. 3 boys had found something strange on Oak Island. Something that looked like the work of people with secrets to hide and treasure to protect. The shaft seemed to descend forever. Each platform told the same story. This was no accident of nature. Human hands had dug this hole, lined it with logs, and filled it with carefully placed barriers. But why? And what waited at the bottom? The boys had started something they could not finish alone. Their simple curiosity had awakened a mystery that would consume treasure hunters for centuries to come. The Onslow Company and the flooded debts. The Onslow Company arrived on Oak Island in 1802 with grand plans and serious money. Unlike the earlier treasure hunters who worked with simple tools and hope, this group brought proper equipment and a business mindset. They meant to solve the mystery once and for all. The team started digging where others had failed before. At first, everything went smoothly. They found the same wooden platforms every 10 feet that had puzzled earlier searchers. But as they went deeper, strange new discoveries emerged. At 60 feet, their shovels hit something unexpected. The dirt gave way to thick layers of coconut fiber. This discovery sent chills through the crew. Coconut trees don't grow anywhere near Nova Scotia. Someone had brought this material from thousands of miles away. The fiber was packed tight, almost like insulation. Why would anyone bury coconut husks so deep underground? The workers exchanged worried glances as they pulled up handful after handful of the foreign material. But the real shock came at 90 feet. Their picks struck a flat stone covered with strange markings. The symbols looked like no language anyone recognized. Some thought they saw numbers. Others insisted the marks formed letters from an ancient alphabet. One crew member claimed he could read the message. According to him, it promised that 40 feet below lay 2 million pounds buried. The translation sparked wild excitement among the diggers. They worked through the night, desperate to reach the promised treasure. Dawn brought disaster. As the first worker climbed down into the shaft that morning, his feet splashed into cold water. By afternoon, the pit had filled 40 feet deep with seawater. Every bucket they hauled up was quickly replaced by more rushing water. The flooding seemed impossible. They were digging inland, far from any ocean inlet. Yet the water tasted of salt and rose with the tide. Someone had engineered an elaborate system to flood the pit whenever diggers went too deep. Teams tried everything to stop the water. They dug drainage channels and built pumps. Nothing worked. The mysterious flood system defeated every attempt. The water level dropped slightly during low tide, but always returned with a vengeance. The Onslow company realized they faced something far more complex than a simple buried treasure. Someone had created an intricate booby trap designed to protect whatever lay hidden below. The precision required for such engineering suggested the builders possessed advanced knowledge and unlimited time. After months of failed attempts to drain the shaft, the company ran out of money and patience. They abandoned the site, leaving behind more questions than answers. The inscribed stone disappeared shortly after, adding another layer to the growing mystery. Word of the engineered flooding spread across Nova Scotia and beyond. The story attracted engineers and treasure hunters who marveled at the sophisticated trap system. Whoever built this protection clearly valued their secret enough to create an almost impenetrable defense. The Truro Company's drilling discoveries. The year 1849 brought fresh hope to Oak Island. The newly formed Truro Company arrived with something previous searchers had never possessed: advanced drilling equipment. Their plan was simple yet revolutionary. Instead of digging through the treacherous water-filled pit, they would drill down from above. The drill bit descended slowly through layers of earth and wood. At 98 feet, something extraordinary happened. The drill struck what felt like a wooden platform. Then it punched through into empty space below. The workers exchanged excited glances. A cavity lay hidden beneath the money pit. But the drill told an even stranger story as it continued downward. More wood platforms appeared, at precise intervals. Each one seemed deliberately placed, as if someone had built a complex storage system deep underground. The pattern was too perfect to be natural. Then came the discovery that changed everything. When the drill reached 104 feet, it began pulling up metal fragments. Tiny pieces of what appeared to be gold chain clung to the drilling apparatus. The workers held their breath as they examined the glittering specks in the sunlight. James Pitblotto, the Truro Company's foreman, claimed the drill had also brought up bits of parchment. He said he could make out letters written in ink, though the fragments were too small to read clearly. The implications sent shivers through the camp. Documents meant human activity. Documents meant treasure. Each new drilling attempt only deepened the mystery. The equipment consistently struck the same wooden platforms at the same depths. The pattern never varied. Someone had built this elaborate system with mathematical precision. Yet every success brought fresh frustration. The moment workers tried to excavate the areas their drills had found, water rushed in with unstoppable force. The flooding seemed triggered by their very attempts to reach the treasure. It was as if the original builders had anticipated exactly what future searchers would try. Skeptics began questioning the gold chain fragments almost immediately. Were they really gold? Had they truly come from the pit depths? Or had they somehow contaminated the drill from above ground? The tiny pieces offered tantalizing hope, but no definitive proof. The wooden platforms posed their own questions. How had someone built such an intricate system so deep underground? Why place them at such regular intervals? What purpose did the empty spaces between them serve? Most disturbing of all was the flooding itself. The water seemed to follow rules that defied logic. It appeared precisely when searchers got too close to their goal. The timing felt calculated, as if an invisible guardian still protected the pit's secrets after all these years. By 1851, the Truro Company had spent 2 years drilling and probing. They had found evidence of human engineering far below ground. They had discovered metal fragments that might be treasure, yet they had not recovered a single valuable item from the depths. The Oak Island Association and the era of collapse. The men worked faster now. The Oak Island Association had money and machinery, things the earlier treasure hunters never possessed. They dug with steam pumps and iron drills, believing they could finally beat the water that had defeated so many before them. What they found beneath the island changed everything. In 1862, workers discovered something that made their blood run cold. Ancient tunnels stretched like spider webs under the ground, connecting the money pit to the shoreline at Smith's Cove. Someone had built these passages centuries ago, creating a system so clever it seemed impossible. The workers followed one tunnel and found coconut fiber packed into the walls. Coconut fiber on a cold Canadian island, hundreds of miles from any palm tree. They dug deeper and struck blue clay, smooth as pottery and clearly placed by human hands. These discoveries proved what many had suspected. The money pit was not just a hole. It was part of something much larger, much more complex than anyone had imagined. But the island seemed to fight back. Every time the workers got close to the treasure chamber, water rushed in through the tunnels. The pumps could not keep up. Men worked day and night, their faces grim with exhaustion and fear. Then came the accident that changed everything. A worker named James McNutt was operating the pumping equipment when something went terribly wrong. The scalding water from the boiler caught him, and he died within hours. The first death, directly linked to the money pit, sent shockwaves through the camp. Men who had worked fearlessly began to whisper. They spoke of a curse, of the island claiming lives to protect its secrets. Some pointed to the strange coincidences that seemed to follow every dig. Others remembered the old stories about 7 men dying before the treasure would be found. The association pressed on, but each day brought new problems. Cave-ins became more frequent. Equipment broke down at crucial moments. Men reported feeling watched in the dark tunnels, hearing voices where no one should be. By 1867, even the most determined treasure hunters had to face the truth. The island had beaten them again. The money pit remained as mysterious as ever, its depths hiding secrets that seemed determined to stay buried. As the association packed their equipment and left the island, they carried with them stories that would fuel legends for generations. They had found evidence of an ancient engineering project unlike anything in North America. They had touched artifacts from another time. But they had also learned that Oak Island demanded a price from those who sought its treasure. The curse was no longer just a story whispered around campfires. The Parchment and the Hidden Cipher. The year was 1897 when everything changed. Deep in the money pit, workers hauled up mud and debris from 90 feet below ground. Among the usual rocks and soggy earth, something caught their eye. A small piece of sheepskin parchment, no bigger than a postage stamp, emerged from the depths. The fragment looked ancient, faint letters appeared on its surface, written in what experts later identified as India ink. The letters seemed to spell V or U, though the writing was so worn that scholars argued over every mark. This tiny scrap of animal skin would spark debates that continue today. Where had it come from? The parchment lay buried beneath layers of clay and wood that had been there for centuries. Someone had placed it there long before the modern treasure hunters arrived. But who and why? Word of the discovery spread quickly. Researchers began forming wild theories about what the parchment might represent. Some believed it came from lost manuscripts by Francis Bacon, the famous philosopher and scientist. Others whispered that it might be connected to William Shakespeare himself. The Bacon theory gained strength when people remembered his love of codes and secret writing. Bacon had written about hidden messages and cipher systems throughout his life. Could he have buried his most important works on Oak Island? The idea seemed both impossible and thrilling. Shakespeare supporters pointed to rumors that the famous playwright had never really written his own works. They suggested that someone else, perhaps Bacon, had been the true author. Maybe the real manuscripts lay hidden beneath Oak Island, waiting to rewrite history. The parchment changed everything about the Oak Island search. Suddenly, treasure hunters were not just looking for gold and silver. They were hunting for knowledge itself. Ancient books, secret documents, and hidden wisdom became the new prize. Scientists examined the fragment under microscopes. They tested the ink and studied the animal skin. The results only deepened the mystery. The parchment appeared genuinely old, but proving its connection to famous historical figures remained impossible. Skeptics raised important questions. How could such delicate material survive centuries underground? Why would someone bury priceless manuscripts in such a dangerous place? The answers remained just out of reach. Yet the parchment had planted a seed. If documents could survive in the pit, what other secrets might be waiting? The search for Oak Island's treasure had become something far more complex than anyone had imagined. The Old Gold Salvage Expedition and Lost Symbols. The year 1909 brought an unlikely treasure hunter to Oak Island. A young Harvard lawyer named Franklin D. Roosevelt joined the Old Gold Salvage Group, drawn by whispers of buried secrets beneath Canadian soil. Roosevelt was 27 then, decades before he would lead America through war and depression. Yet even as a young man, the mystery called to him. He invested his own money and spent precious summer days on the windswept island, convinced that fame and fortune waited below. The Old Gold Salvage team came prepared. They brought modern equipment and hired professional divers. Their plan was simple but bold: clear the money pit completely and send men down to explore every inch of the flooded shaft. For weeks, they pumped water and hauled up debris. The pit fought them at every turn, just as it had fought others before. Water seeped through hidden tunnels. Wooden platforms collapsed without warning. Still, they pushed deeper. At 113 feet, they finally reached the bottom. The moment had come. Professional divers slipped into the dark water, their heavy suits and air hoses the only things keeping them alive in that underwater tomb. What they found changed everything. Nothing. The divers reported empty mud and scattered wood pieces. No treasure chests. No ancient artifacts. No signs of the riches that had drawn so many before them. But Roosevelt's team made another discovery that shook the Oak Island story to its core. They traveled to Halifax to examine the famous Cipher stone. For decades, treasure hunters had whispered about this mysterious rock covered in strange symbols. Some claimed it held the key to the island's greatest secret. The stone sat in a basement supposedly pulled from the money pit years earlier. Roosevelt and his experts studied it carefully under gaslight. They turned it over in their hands. They searched every surface with magnifying glasses. The truth hit like cold water. The stone was ordinary basalt rock. No symbols, no mysterious carvings, no ancient code waiting to be broken. Where were the 40-foot inscriptions that earlier reports described? Where were the mysterious symbols that had sparked so much excitement? The stone looked like any rock you might find on a Nova Scotia beach. Roosevelt returned to his law practice, but Oak Island never left his thoughts. Even as president, he would speak of the island's mystery. The experience had changed him, though perhaps not in the way he expected. The old gold salvage expedition marked a turning point. For the first time, modern methods and careful examination had challenged the island's most famous legend. The Cipher stone controversy raised uncomfortable questions about earlier claims. Had previous treasure hunters seen what they wanted to see? Had decades of hope and desperation created myths where none existed? Roosevelt's careful investigation suggested that some of Oak Island's most celebrated artifacts might be nothing more than wishful thinking. Industrial excavations and new clues. The rumble of diesel engines broke Oak Island's centuries-old silence in 1928. William Chappell had returned with something the island had never seen before. Industrial machinery that could dig deeper than any human hands ever could. Steam shovels carved through layers of earth that had kept their secrets since the 1700s. The massive equipment reached depths that made previous attempts look like children playing in sand. At 90 feet down, workers pulled up rusted picks and iron anchors. These weren't random pieces of metal. Someone had placed them there with purpose. The machinery revealed something even more startling. The walls showed clear signs of construction. Stone layers alternated with clay in patterns too perfect for nature. Previous searchers had been right. Someone had built elaborate structures beneath the island. Gilbert Hedden arrived in 1934 with fresh eyes and deeper pockets. He studied every map, every document, every whispered story about the island. What he found changed everything. Hidden in old maritime charts, he discovered strange markings that seemed to point directly to Oak Island. The patterns weren't random scratches. They were codes. Hedden became obsessed with these coded maps. He spent months tracing lines, measuring angles, comparing symbols. The maps suggested the entire island was laid out according to a master plan. Someone had designed Oak Island like a puzzle, with the money pit as just one piece of a much larger game. The industrial equipment kept digging. Workers found more picks, more anchors, more evidence that multiple groups had worked on the island over many years. But the machinery also revealed the island's greatest defense: water. No matter how powerful the pumps, the ocean always found a way back in. Hedden's team discovered tunnel systems that connected to the shore. These weren't crude holes dug by desperate pirates. They were engineered waterworks designed by people who understood construction and flooding. The tunnels created a perfect trap. Dig too deep, and the Atlantic Ocean would rush in to stop you. The coded maps led Hedden to believe the island connected to secret societies, groups with knowledge of engineering and enough resources to build something this complex. The patterns matched symbols used by organizations that operated in shadows, far from public view. Each artifact told part of a story, but the complete truth remained buried. The industrial age had brought powerful tools to Oak Island, but the island's creators had been just as clever. They had built something that could resist even modern machinery. The steam shovels and pumps had revealed more questions than answers, and those questions pointed to something far more elaborate than simple pirate treasure. Artifacts of unknown origin. The dirt revealed its secrets slowly, one handful at a time. In 1795, when three young men first dug into Oak Island's earth, they had no idea their shovels would unearth questions that still puzzle experts today. Spanish coins emerged from the depths, their edges worn smooth by centuries. Experts dated them to the 1500s. How did currency from distant Spain find its way to this remote Canadian island? The coins bore no clear answers, only more mysteries. Then came the chain fragments, pieces of gold, delicate yet strong, crafted by skilled hands. The metal showed signs of fine workmanship, the kind reserved for valuable jewelry or ceremonial objects. But who wore these chains? Why were they buried so deep? Hand-forged tools surfaced next, iron implements shaped by fire and hammer, their purpose unclear. Some looked like medieval picks. Others resembled construction tools unlike anything colonists would have used. The metal itself defied explanation. Analysis revealed unusually low carbon content, suggesting advanced metalworking techniques. Perhaps strangest of all was the coconut fiber. Tons of it, layered throughout the pit at different depths. Coconuts don't grow in Nova Scotia's cold climate. The nearest coconut palms stood thousands of miles away in tropical waters. Someone had transported this material across vast oceans, then used it as part of an elaborate construction project. Each artifact told part of a story, but never the whole tale. Carbon dating proved challenging. Saltwater and shifting soil contaminated many samples. Some tests pointed to the 1600s. Others suggested earlier periods. The evidence scattered across centuries, like puzzle pieces from different boxes. Modern technology brought new discoveries. Metal detectors revealed lead objects shaped like crosses. Ground-penetrating radar located metal masses buried too deep for shovels to reach. Each find raised fresh questions about who had lived and worked on this island. The artifacts shared common threads. All showed signs of deliberate placement. None appeared randomly scattered. Someone had carefully organized this underground collection. The positioning suggested planning, perhaps even engineering knowledge that exceeded what historians expected from early settlers. Laboratory analysis confirmed human involvement. Tool marks on metal surfaces proved these objects had been worked by hands and shaped with purpose. Chemical signatures in the metal matched techniques used by skilled craftsmen, not crude colonial blacksmiths. Yet gaps remained in every theory. No single explanation accounted for all the evidence. Spanish treasure hunters might explain the coins. Templars could account for the religious symbols. Pirates provided context for the elaborate hiding methods. But no theory explained everything found beneath Oak Island's surface. The collection grew with each excavation season. New artifacts emerged regularly, each adding complexity to an already bewildering mystery. Every discovery promised answers, but delivered only deeper questions about who had turned this quiet island into an underground vault of secrets. Modern excavations and controversial finds. In 2006, two brothers from Michigan changed everything about Oak Island. Rick and Marty Lagina brought something the island had never seen before. Money, lots of it, and television cameras. The History Channel followed their every move. Millions of viewers watched as the brothers dug deeper than anyone had gone before. They used machines that could see through rock. They brought in experts from around the world. What they found made headlines. Deep in the swamp, metal detectors screamed. The team pulled up pieces of old leather. Laboratory tests showed the leather was from the 1600s. Someone had been on this island long before anyone thought possible. Then came the parchment. Tiny fragments of what looked like old paper. The ink had faded to almost nothing, but experts could make out letters, real writing from centuries ago. The questions multiplied. Who wrote these words? What did they say? The brothers found wooden beams buried 40 feet down. Carbon dating revealed they were cut in the mid-1700s. These weren't random pieces of driftwood. Someone had built something massive underground. Something meant to last forever. Ground-penetrating radar showed something even stranger. A network of tunnels spread like spider webs beneath the island. Some led to the ocean. Others disappeared into solid rock. The flood tunnels were real. Someone had designed this place to keep secrets. Gary Drayton, the team's metal detection expert, made the most shocking discovery yet. He claimed to find a Roman sword buried in the mud. The blade was ancient. The markings looked authentic. News outlets went wild. Had Romans reached North America 1,000 years before Columbus? The excitement didn't last long. Other experts examined the sword. The metal was wrong. The style was wrong. Someone had planted it there. The hoax embarrassed everyone involved. But it raised darker questions. If someone was faking artifacts now, what about the old discoveries? How much of Oak Island's legend was built on lies? The television show changed everything about the mystery. Suddenly, everyone had an opinion. Online forums exploded with theories. Treasure hunters arrived from every continent. The quiet island became a tourist destination. Each season brought new finds, strange coins, mysterious bones, lead cross that might be from the Knights Templar. The laboratory results always came back the same way. Old, very old, but never quite old enough to prove any single theory. The brothers kept digging. Their drilling equipment reached depths no one had achieved before. At 170 feet down, they found traces of gold. Microscopic amounts, but definitely there. Something valuable lay deeper still. The island refuses to give up its greatest secret. Every answer creates 10 new questions. The cameras keep rolling. The mystery grows stronger with each passing year. The unending mystery beneath the island. After 200 years of digging, drilling, and searching, Oak Island still guards its secrets. The old pit that started it all remains as puzzling today as it did to those first 3 boys who found it centuries ago. Every shovel of dirt tells a story. Metal fragments emerge from depths that shouldn't contain such things. Lead crosses surface where no church ever stood. Pieces of parchment appear in places where no books were ever buried. Each discovery raises 10 new questions. The engineering speaks of something extraordinary. Water channels snake through bedrock with surgical precision. Stone platforms sit at exact depths, placed with mathematical care. Someone designed this island as a fortress of secrets, and they did it with skills that impress modern engineers. Teams have spent millions trying to solve what lies beneath. They've used ground radar, deep bore drills, and computers that can map every stone. Yet the island keeps its greatest mystery hidden. The harder people search, the more complex the puzzle becomes. Consider the flood traps. Water rushes in whenever diggers get close to something important. This isn't accident or nature. Someone built these defenses on purpose. They wanted to keep people away from whatever waits in the darkness below. The human cost grows with each passing year. Families spend their life savings chasing shadows. Marriages break under the strain of obsession. 6 people have died trying to reach the bottom of that pit. The island seems to demand a price for every secret it might reveal. What drove the original builders to such lengths? Was it gold that glitters in lamplight? Ancient documents that could rewrite history? Religious artifacts that powerful groups wanted hidden forever? The possibilities stretch like shadows across centuries. Modern searchers face the same problems as their ancestors. Equipment fails at crucial moments. Money runs out just when breakthrough seems possible. The island appears to actively resist discovery, as if it has a mind of its own. Perhaps that's the real treasure Oak Island offers. Not gold or jewels, but the reminder that some mysteries refuse to bend to human will. In our age of instant answers and satellite maps, this small piece of land stands as proof that the unknown still exists. The pit waits as it always has, silent, patient, keeping its secrets buried deep beneath tons of earth and stone. Future generations will come with better tools and fresh hope. They too will dig and dream and wonder what lies just beyond their reach. Some treasures are meant to stay hidden. Some questions are more valuable than their answers. Oak Island has taught us that much, at least.